Good morning and welcome to another live edition of Wealth Building Wednesday. I am your host, Miss Lydia Chapman. I currently serve as the director of TRHT Selma. TRHT Selma is an initiative that is comprised of two locally based nonprofit organizations. That is the Selma Center for Nonviolence and the Black Belt Community Foundation. These two organizations come together to produce TRHT Selma, and we are funded by the WK Kellogg Foundation. Wealth Building Wednesday is just one way that we're working to change the material conditions along with the hearts and minds of folks across our community, not just in Selma, Dallas County, but across the Black Belt in Alabama and around the United States. Y'all, we are really pushing this show out. We have tons of videos. So if this is your first time tuning in, we want to encourage you to go back and review, because if you go back and review, you will have the opportunity to recognize that the lady who is here today, she is no stranger to Wealth Building Wednesday. Miss Sandy Hesley is an NFCC certified credit counselor. She works for Lifeline Counseling. Lifelines Counseling is based in Mobile, Alabama. However, they serve the Florida Panhandle and the entire state of Alabama. So we're excited to welcome back Miss Sandy Hesley as we talk about this thing called credit. Good morning, Miss Sandy. How are
Good
you?
morning. I'm so excited to be back with you guys.
Absolutely. We love having you on because you put that information so everybody can understand. And credit is a word, is a topic that a lot of us may find difficulty in discussing, because sometimes, it can be mystified, right? There are these three companies that manage this thing called credit. It's attached to our social security numbers and it impacts a whole lot of stuff. So, again, if this is your first time tuning into Wealth Building Wednesday, we broadcast every single Wednesday, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, and we have videos where Miss Sandy Hesley goes through and defines the three credit bureaus: Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. Yes. And so she talks about those. And so she's already laid the groundwork. So this is not going to be the very beginning of the conversation, right? So if you want to check out the very beginning, you want to go back, log on to the Black Belt Community Foundation YouTube page or Facebook page, as well as the Selma Center for Nonviolence Facebook page and YouTube channel. So we want to make sure that you get the groundwork, but this conversation is a continuation of dialogues that we've maintained over the past year or so, last 2 years, about credit. And so what kinds of things can our credit score impact? Like, who is actually paying attention to whether we have credit or what our score looks like?
Well, I mean, your credit score, it impacts basically your financial future. If your score is low, then you can expect to pay higher interest rates when it comes to borrowing money. Along with those higher interest rates comes higher monthly payments. So it can impact where you live, what you drive. Because again, if the credit score is not good, then you might have to live in not so much, not so desirable accommodations as you would like, things like that. And it just impacts a number of things. And I think that's what people just don't really realize is how impactful your credit score is throughout your life. And creditors, potential creditors, they're paying attention to your credit scores. Insurance companies, they're paying attention. Employers, mortgage lenders, utility companies, landlords. And for me, ultimately, we should be paying attention to our credit scores. Absolutely. Ultimately, we should. So it's a lot on the line with regards to your credit.
So now you mentioned some areas of our lives that some folks may not really recognize as being impacted by our credit score. You talked about employers. You talked about landlords, and when you go to apply for an apartment or a townhouse or even renting just an entire house,
Yeah.
Folks are looking at your credit history
Hmm.
because, from my understanding, our credit history basically is the employer's way of kind of figuring out whether you can be trusted, I guess.
Hmm. And sometimes that's the biggest part of it. And then also some jobs you might have to be bonded,
Okay.
and the credit, plays into that. And I think what we really need to realize is that your credit tells your financial story. It
Okay.
tells a company and individual how it talks about your character. You understand what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
it lets them know, okay, is this person going to pay me, like, on time? Can they be trusted? That kind of thing. So yeah, those are the uh, type of things that you need to think about when people are looking at your credit.
And so now those three numbers mean a lot, right? They're attached
Oh
to the
yeah.
9 numbers that the United States uses to identify us as individuals. But those three numbers, again, from those three bureaus, Equifax, TransUnion, and I don't know why I keep forgetting Equifax, TransUnion, and
And
yeah,
experience.
and Experian, yeah.
Hmm.
But the three credit bureaus are super, super important to, and because, and making sure that you know what your score is at each of them,
Hmm.
because your score can be different
Yeah.
depending on the credit bureau. So now,
Hmm.
how can our personal credit impact our ability to start a business? Because a lot of the work that we do with TRHT Selma is focused on entrepreneurship and helping families to build wealth, like learn the importance of wealth building, and to fill in that wealth gap. Because in the United States of America, the top 1% of earners, if you will, in our country actually possess or control over 75 to 80% of the wealth that is available in our country,
Hmm.
which means that the rest of us are dividing up what's left.
Hmm.
And so it's really important that with the entrepreneurial journey, and even like we're just talking about credit, that we're sharing as much information as possible. So now, how can our personal credit impact our ability to do something like start a business?
Well, because and let me say this, generally business owners like to try and keep the two separate.
Okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
And sometimes that's doable and sometimes it's not. Starting out, a lot of times they're going to have to rely on your personal credit
Mm. Okay.
to determine your business trustworthiness. And sometimes that's just unavoidable. But it can be done, but sometimes it can be difficult, especially when it's a new business starting out. And so that's when the two will, that's when they're gonna lean more to your personal credit rather than your business credit. So, and then when you're looking at, and I think one of the questions later on is going to answer a lot of this too. So I won't get into too much of it. But then it goes to the type of business that you set up as well. Like, are you doing a sole proprietorship? Are you doing an LLC? Are you doing a partnership? Are you doing a corporation? See, all of that plays into how much your personal credit impacts your business. But generally, when you're just starting out,
Mhm.
a lot of times they're going to lean heavily on your personal because it's a new business. They don't have anything to go by. So they have to go by your personal credit.
So that means that if we are looking to especially tap into capital that may be available through like a primary banking institution, that we want to make sure that our personal credit is in good standing, so
Correct.
that when they go to look at, for like financing for a business, when they go to look at our personal credit, they understand that, okay, this is a small business owner. Yes, this is a new business, but this is a person who is able and has been willing to pay the bills without being, called and harassed.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so now what about understanding our credit score and actually being able to see those credit scores? Because there are tons of, I've seen commercials on television and ads on social media for all of these different programs and apps and things. So I'm wondering, where is the most reliable source for seeing our actual credit score?
And I'm glad that you posed that question because it forced me to do some research because I was like, that's a good question. And nowadays, your a lot of your creditors, especially the big credit card companies like Capital One, Chase,
Mm-hmm.
they are offer Discover. They offer you free access to your credit scores monthly. You can look at them anytime you want to by logging into your account. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a good place. But then I found a couple of other places. This website called credit.com. You can
Okay.
get 2 free credit scores and reports by registering on
Mm-hmm.
credit.com. And really is an Experian credit report, and it's updated once a month. And
Mm-hmm.
you can sign up, for a free account. You won't be required to put in your credit card number. Anytime you go to a site and it tells you it's free, but we need your credit card company, X out
Mm-hmm.
of it. Because if it's
Okay.
free, they don't need that.
Okay.
And it's another place called Wallet Hub where you
Okay.
can go and register. To get access to your the actual credit report, because a lot of times when I was talking about the credit card companies, if you have an account with them, you have free access to your credit score.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the score, but not the actual report. I'm talking about these places you can go to get your credit report. And then I found out that Chase, you don't have to have an account with Chase in order for you to be able to access your credit score with Chase.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I found that out and I tried it. So it's legit.
Okay.
So those are the places that I know of where you can set up an account so that you can go review it. My thing is, as long as you can monitor your score
Mm-hmm.
on a monthly basis, that's key, because once you see a shift or a change in that score, that's an alert for you to know to go pull your score, just pull your credit report to see, okay, what changed, what happened. I hadn't applied for anything, I'm not doing anything, so what happened, that kind of thing. But those are the sites that I know of that you can go to where you'll be able to access your actual report. And
So
of
now
course,
is
and
mhm,
I'm sorry, and of
go
course,
ahead.
annualcreditreport.com. That's a
Yes.
good one. You
Yes.
can go there once a year. They encourage you to go once a year to pull your actual credit report. It's not going to give you the score, but it's going to give you the activity. And that's the important part. You want to just review the activity to make sure that everything on there belongs to you, everything is legit, and that kind of thing. So of course, annualcreditreport.com, that's a place that you can go once a year for sure to get your credit report. And one other thing,
Mhm.
if you apply for something, apply for credit, you're entitled to a copy of your free credit report as well.
And so now that's typically going to be, ladies and gentlemen, if you are watching or tuned in and you need to share this information with someone, please go ahead and do that, because what we want to make sure is that we get our credit in order, because credit is necessary for home buying. And we are strong advocates for folks getting engaged in purchasing homes. Become the landlord, if you will, right?
Mhm.
The person who is able to control their own destiny. Because the number one thing, I just had this conversation with someone yesterday. The number one thing that all folks who are classified as millionaires and billionaires in this country have in common is real estate investment on some level.
Mhm.
So being able to invest in real estate is a very it's a profound way to build wealth. And so I do want to go back to a couple of things you just said about going to get our credit report as well as our credit score. So in the fine print, if you apply for credit, what Miss Sandy Hesley was talking about, make sure that when you get that the letter in the mail indicating that you now have this new credit established, or that you were declined for credit, that you read that fine print and reach out to them for that credit report, because it will actually give you a score, right? The score
Yeah.
that they use to determine
Mhm.
your eligibility, as
Correct.
well as an opportunity, like she said, to get your credit report.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, don't go apply for credit if you don't have to, right?
Yeah.
Because that can impact your credit. If you're like
Mhm.
repeatedly applying for credit over and over and over again, it's like within a year, that's a red flag, if you will,
Yeah.
for lenders. So now, Wallet Hub, and these are all in the chat. So if you missed what she was saying, these are in the chat. Wallet Hub, we have annualcreditreport.com. You can go once a year to get your entire credit report, as well as credit.com. Chase Bank also has a way, and you do not have to be a Chase customer. So if you are not a Chase customer, you live in Selma, Dallas County, or you live in somewhere that you have no idea where your closest Chase branch is, you do not have to be a Chase customer in order to take advantage of their platform and to be able to see your credit score. So now I do want to quickly ask you though, like, is there a difference in what we will see when we log into these type of apps, or and what we will see versus what, say, like a lending institution will see? Is there a difference in that score?
No, it's something with what's the one? Credit Karma.
Credit Karma.
That's the one where I don't know what it is, but their scores are always way off from what
Okay.
we see when we pull it. But the activity's the same. So I don't know what they're doing to score. But if you're pulling from a legit credit reporting company or credit agency, no, it shouldn't be a big difference. But I don't know what it is with Credit Karma, but
Yeah.
across the board, their scores are always way off from what we see.
And I've definitely heard that before. And just to let folks know, I know that Experian has its own app that
Yeah.
allows you to not just access its score on you, but you can also see your scores from the other two credit bureaus as well. Now that's for a fee.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you got to pay to see the other two. So, but the Experian provides it for free.
And the
You
scores
can,
are not going to be the same across all three bureaus because some companies report to some and they don't to others. That's
yeah.
why a lot of times I know with mortgages, that's why they will pull all three because they want to make sure that they got the whole picture. Because they recognize that. But you may get your Equifax report and you may see where you have a 690 and then you get Experian, it shows where you have a 676. You're like, well, what's the difference? Because some things are reported to Equifax, some companies report to all three, some of them report to two, and some of them just report to one. So that's why.
Okay. Great information, y'all. So if you're not taking notes, go back, listen to this interview again, watch it again. This is great information, and information is truly power. So
Mhm.
now, what about folks who don't have credit? What are some of the ways that people who do not have credit can actually build credit?
The best way, and the one way that most people start building credit is they'll go get like a secured credit card or secured loan.
Okay.
That's the quickest way. And I'll put Regions out there because I know for a fact that like Regions, they have a secured loan or secured credit card that you can get with as little as $250.
Oh,
And
wow.
so yeah, so that's pretty cheap. So that's the easiest way. And then some people they have somebody that trusts them enough where they might add them as an authorized signer to like a credit card. That's a way. And then some people are fortunate where somebody trusts them enough where they'll co-sign for them. So those are the three ways that top ways that a lot of people start building credit.
And so listen up. If you have no credit or limited credit, make sure that you're looking for banks that have a secured credit card, some capability that will allow you. And secured means that you're putting the money up front, right?
Yes.
So that means that the bank knows that the money is there, is your
Yeah.
money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you're going to have that card and be able to use that credit card. But y'all, credit depends on paying the bills. So if you're using that $250 and building your credit, pay that bill right back off. Pay it right back off. Don't
Mm-hmm.
use, and this is coming from somebody who has experienced having to rebuild her credit, right? Because when you're going to college, and let the parents know now, on college campuses,
They're
freshmen,
waiting. They're waiting.
yes, credit card companies are there. They are lined up waiting to receive you, honey. It's like going to
Mhm.
church, except they're
Yeah,
offering you money. The doors
yeah,
of the credit cards are open, right?
yeah.
And they are waiting to receive you. The thing is that if we don't equip our young people with this basic knowledge that we're talking about now and that we've talked about in the past on Wealth Building Wednesday, they can end up like myself. I went to college, saw all of these tables, and they have the cutest little gifts and things like that, stuff
Yeah.
that comes in handy while you're in college, right?
Yeah.
But you get those cards, you start out paying well, and this is what my journey was. I started out paying really, really well, right? Had no real idea what that was impacting. So apparently I started off with a really high credit score because guess
Mhm.
what? When you pay those bills, your limit increases. So every
Yeah.
last one of them, limit increase. Didn't pay all the time. Again, knowledge is power.
Mhm.
Made some mistakes, but now the things that Sandy and I are talking about, just learning. We Google everything else.
Yeah.
Google, like, how do I increase my credit score, right? And there's tons of information and reliable information. You just have to discern for yourself whether you want to trust these what websites are telling you. Banks tend and credit unions tend to tell you the truth, right? Agencies like
Mhm.
Lifelines Counseling and folks like Miss Sandy Hesley who can provide this help for free,
Yeah.
right? These are reliable sources, right? But now if it says like boost your credit now type stuff, we could
Mm.
U-turn and head back to safety. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you are questioning how you can build your credit, Lifelines Counseling is definitely the route to go, right? You want
Mhm.
to make sure that you reach out to Miss Hesley. And I want to make sure that folks get your contact information a couple of times. So if I'm interested in trying to build my credit, or if I have bad credit, right? How do I get in touch with you? How can I work with you to get this corrected for free?
You can give me a call at 251
Mhm. And that again is 251.
602
Mhm.
0011.
Okay.
And then you can email me at SHESLEY at ccsmobile.org.
Okay. And see, I want to make sure that folks have that information. As a matter of fact, I'm getting message right now, like folks are saying, "How can I get in touch with her?" And so we are literally sharing, putting this information where the goats can get it, if so to speak. Because the
Mhm.
thing is, we want to make sure that everybody under the sound of our voices, that we are able to share the information, and you're able to work on your credit, get and get it in good shape so that you're able to go out and purchase properties, so that you're able to live in the neighborhood you want to live in, so that you can purchase a car, because you mentioned it in your response to the very first question, what you drive. Right now, sometimes we drive stuff just because we want the Joneses to see what we're driving.
Yeah.
But guess what? If you don't have a good credit score, driving so that you can impress people who probably don't even know who you are, right?
Mhm.
Driving a nice car can cost you twice as much.
Yes.
So we want to make sure that you're building your credit so that you can drive what you want affordably, right?
Yes.
So that you can purchase your home and not be what they call house poor, right? Because robbing Peter to
Exactly.
pay Paul, to make sure that those payments are made. And
Mhm.
because we don't want anybody to experience foreclosure. So now, what about folks who have good credit, made bad choices, like I was talking about earlier? What are some things, some really interesting tricks that you've seen people use, or that you've helped people through in your experience, in your years of experience? What are some things people can do to increase their credit score quickly?
I mean, I always tell them the best thing that you can do, and the best way to bounce back is to work on what you already have,
Mm,
what's already there. If you have some late pays, get them caught up and continue to pay them and pay that credit card down. Get that credit card utilization down. Pay your credit cards down to the within the 25% credit utilization. You have some late pays. Those are going to have to eventually fall off, but get them caught up and continue to pay what you have on time as agreed. And then sometimes pay twice a month. Pay that bill twice a month. You'd be
Okay.
surprised at what that does. Then I found out like Experian, they have this new thing that they use called Experian Boost,
Mm-hmm.
where you can use like monthly bills that you pay, like even Netflix, some utility bills, yes, Verizon, your Verizon bill, things like that that you can use to help boost your credit by having them reported to the credit bureau. But again, this is just through Experian.
Okay.
It's a new thing that I found out about them. So, and then if you're paying something really good, if the credit limit increases,
Mm-hmm.
you'd be surprised that can boost your score. But that doesn't
Yes.
mean you go charge up to that limit. But just
Yeah.
all that is doing is just making your credit utilization drop. So that thing. So for me, I always tell them the best way to impact it positively, impact their credit score positively, is to focus on what you already have on there.
Okay.
Take care of what you already have on there. Pay your late fees up, pay your past dues up. Any collections, get those paid off and taken care of. That kind of thing. And throw a little thing in there. If you have a collection that you want to take care of and you call the creditor to negotiate the payment, say, okay, cool. If I pay this, will you agree to delete it? It's what we call a pay and delete. That's not
Okay.
a guarantee that they will do it, but a lot of times if you tell them, hey, if I satisfy this as you're requesting, will you agree to delete it? And if they say, yeah, get it in writing. So, okay, will you shoot me an email, let
Just
me know what we decided on, and then I will submit payment, that kind of thing.
and now, so I'm a living witness to almost everything that you just mentioned that it works. Paying multiple times per month,
Mhm.
reaching out because there was one debt that I had no idea was even out there. But when I pulled my report, I'm like, wait a minute, what is this? And so I reached out to them and paid it, and they actually took a lesser amount and deleted it.
Yeah. Hmm.
And so this is work that you can do now because, and
Hmm.
I wanted to, and this you can do it for free because nobody, I didn't have to pay anybody for this,
Hmm.
right? And so I wanted to just before we wrap up, just want to talk to you about the difference between credit counseling and credit repair because I've seen where there are lots of folks out, and this is no slight on folks who are doing repair, but we do want people to have um the information, right? And this is just a part of having integrity.
Yeah.
So what is the difference between credit counseling and credit repair?
With credit counseling, what we're trying to do is we're trying to teach you how to manage your money. We're trying to teach you how to lower your debt, how to get out of debt. Okay, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to help you control the debt and not let the debt control you. That's what
Mm,
we're trying to do. Credit repair is an attempt to wash away some of them sins, them financial sins, and
okay.
and you did them. And if you did them, they're not gonna go anywhere. Not like that. You understand what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
with credit repair, if you don't have the wherewithal, if you don't have the time to correct some errors that were done on your credit, and you want to get somebody with credit repair, that's on you.
Hmm.
But if they tell you they can get rid of it, run, because they can. If it's legit, if it belongs to you, it's not going anywhere. So that's the difference. We're trying to help you manage, they're trying to get rid of, and if it belongs to you, it's not going anywhere.
Well, and and it's interesting that you said that because I've actually talked to some folks who've gone through some credit repair programs, and what initially happens apparently is that the stuff appears to be gone, but then after a couple of months, the score goes back, because the from my understanding, the reporting bureau is doing research. They're trying to figure out if that debt is legitimate.
Because they have to investigate it. And then let me say this, a lot of times for credit counseling, that's nonprofit, free
Okay.
credit
Ah,
repair, it
okay.
costs you something. And
Okay.
what they're doing is now the credit bureau is caught on to that. So now they're no longer deleting it during the investigation. They're just putting a note by it saying we're researching this, or it's in dispute. They're not even, they used to take it off completely, and then the credit repair company will get a copy, show you, say, hey, see, I had that deleted, and then the next thing you know, you go apply for something that's back on there. The credit reporting agencies, they're not even doing that anymore. They're just putting a
Oh
note
wow.
saying this is in dispute.
Oh wow. Okay. And so this is really great information, y'all. I hope we're taking notes out there. A lot of what has been said is posted in the chat, in the comments. So if you have any questions, I do just quickly want to remind you that if you would like to reach out to Miss Sandy Hesley at Lifelines Counseling, you can call her. That number is area code 251-602-0011. That number will get you to Miss Sandy Hesley. Her services are free. Lifelines Counseling covers the panhandle of Florida. So if you are tuned in and you live in Florida and you're in that panhandle, that Pensacola area, you can call them at 251-602-0011. If you are in Selma, if you are in Birmingham, no matter where you are, Lifelines Counseling in the state of Alabama can help you. And you don't have to go to Mobile to have their services. Just like we're talking virtually, it can be a virtual conversation. If you just have some quick questions that you want to, help allow them to help you take a deeper dive and to help you get your credit score to where you'd like it to be, right? Some folks are shooting for 650, some folks are shooting for 750, other folks are shooting for over 800. All of them are attainable when we put that work in. And the thing that I do want, as we begin to wrap up, I want to remind people that what is worth having is worth working for. So
Exactly.
what happens, just like Miss Hesley said, that if you are going to say like a credit repair, they're trying to get rid of it. But if you are actually engaging in the process and allowing someone like a credit counselor to walk you through okay, you see where you made this, this was actually a financial mistake, right? Or this was something, let's see how fast we can get this paid down because your interest rate is super high here. It's not just being done without your knowledge. You are holding hands with that person, and they're walking you through it. And so now that means that when you get that 785 credit score, you get that 825 credit score, you're not going to make the same mistakes because you learn what not to do. So now really quickly, as we wrap up, I do want to ask you, so what about those, going back to folks who are wanting to start businesses? What are some basic things that you think that we may need to do? Maybe just one thing that folks who may be thinking about starting a business, what can those of us who are thinking about starting our own business do to start building business credit?
You need to establish your business as a separate entity.
Okay.
That's the biggest thing. Separate the two of you. You understand? Because in doing that, you're going to have your social security number, and the business is going to have its own tax ID number. So I would start there. Separate the two.
Awesome. Well, Miss Hesley, I am super excited to have had you here. Welcome back to Wealth Building
Thank
Wednesday.
you.
Yes. And
I
we're going to
always enjoy it. I really do.
And you are always such a wealth of information. Y'all, and listen, I'm telling on her now. Like, she actually, this is not her first rodeo being a credit counselor. She's been in banking, right? So she's seen it from the other side and been the person who's been asking for right
Yeah.
your credit report and having to pull that thing and be like, well, baby,
Mhm.
we would love to, but this, you know.
Yeah.
So she has seen it from both angles, and she's able to help you get that credit together, because we have to have good credit. Well, having good credit is one of the things that can help us
Yeah.
build wealth. And that's
Mhm.
what Wealth Building Wednesday is all about. So, again, thank you for being here. We are
Thank
excited
you.
for you as viewers and listeners. If you are tuned in and listening on our media partner, WBFZ 105.3, want to thank you for listening. Make sure you tune in live every Wednesday, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time from 10 until 10:30-ish. We have a great conversation focused on building wealth. Again, this is not just for folks who are living in Selma, but this is operated by TRHT Selma. That is a partnership between the Black Belt Community Foundation and the Selma Center for Nonviolence. I am your host, Ms. Lydia Chapman. And until next Wednesday, we want you to get out here and start doing some of these things that we are teaching you so that you can build your wealth. Thanks so much. Check you out next Wednesday.